I have my panel with me. Three of my colleagues are seated beside me, and the ambassador from Malaysia. He's speaking to us from his office in Colombo. Ambassador Tan Yang Thai is the current High Commissioner of Malaysia in Sri Lanka and Maldives. He's based in Colombo. Prior to becoming here in 2018, he was the Undersecretary of South and Central Asia Division of Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Malaysia. Since joining the Malaysian Foreign Office in 1995, he has served abroad as a Consul General to Shanghai, People's Republic of China, Minister Consular at the Embassy of Malaysia in Moscow, Russia, and Second Secretary at Embassy of Malaysia in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. So Ambassador comes with a lot of experience, and he's going to share with us what his country, Malaysia, truly Asia, is doing right now. And then I will move on to the colleagues here at the panel with me at this hotel. Thank you. Over to you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Hiran. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm very honored to be here in this prestigious summit. And I just wanted to share a little bit. Malaysia is like the rest of the world, unfortunately, is suffering from the effects of the COVID-19, and especially in our tourism industry. For the first 6 months this year, Malaysian tourism industry has suffered tremendous decline, and I can put it into some dollar signs. It is declined by at least 10.7 billion US dollars from January to June alone. And this is not going to go away anytime soon, especially when the border is still not open. And Malaysia in 2019 actually received some 26 million tourists, mostly from our regional neighboring countries. And this year alone, I think we will never able to even reach 1% of that number. It is basically because since March this year, Malaysia has been has closed its border, and until today has not recovered. But the Malaysian government has, through its Ministry of Tourism, has some strategic tourism campaign, and also a rethink of tourism. So the three main themes that our government is looking at right now is: one, restore confidence to travel; number two, revive domestic tourism; number three, maximize resources. So how are we going to do that? For example, in order to stimulate the demand for travel, the government has provided robust economic incentive for the tourism sector. Among the incentive are tourism tax exemption from 1st July 2020 to 30th June 2021, extension of service tax exemption for hotels until 30th June 2021. We issue also 113 million US dollar worth of travel discount voucher to encourage domestic travel among Malaysians. Domestic tourism, it is encouraged also for them to go online, and also further discounts to encourage our tourism, domestic tourism industry. Unfortunately, like the rest of the world and a few other countries in Asia, we are experiencing the second spike of COVID-19, and movement control within the country has been in place since October. So domestic tourism, the revival of domestic tourism also now is in question. But despite all this, I think the recovery plan is still in place, and we are confident that hopefully very soon we will be able to open for business. And tourism, even though it will not be the same again, but we have been in the tourism industry for many, many years, and we are very confident that after the COVID pandemic, it will come back very, very fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I hope you will stay on with us to take any questions later on.
Sure, thank you.
I have here with me the two presidents of the two main associations in Sri Lanka. On my right is Thilak Weerasinghe, President of Sri Lanka Inbound Tour Operators, which is the premier destination management company representative. They have many members who have been in this business for over 40, 50 years, and Thilak represents them. And on my extreme left is Sanath Ukwatte, who's the president of the Tourist Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, with over 250 members, representing all the premier hotels, both locally owned as well as international brands. Here in Sri Lanka, Sanath is also the chairman of Mount Lavinia Hotel, while Thilak is the chairman and founder of Lanka Sports Horizon. And I must also tell you that I met Thilak in the 1980s when he was windsurfing in Kalutara, and my father at that time told me, watch that man, he's going to do very well in tourism, and he has done extremely well, and we are very proud of you, Thilak. And so has Sanath, who has taken over the business from his father and continued to build a massive brand, Mount Lavinia, and along with it, he has also invested in and owns hotels in Maldives, as well as other investments here. And the youngest member, though he has lost his hair, is Vickum Nawagamuwage, who's also relatively new to tourism, but I must say he's a groundbreaker. He's done very well with his brand Santani. He's shown to all of us that a small exclusive property providing an exclusive service and an experience can go places. So it'd be interesting to hear from Vickum, and I'll be asking him some questions as well. He's a management consultant specialist based in Singapore earlier, but now spends most of his time here talking passionately about our country and how to position Sri Lanka. So it is that new blood that has come, and that is, we very welcome that, because that's something that we need. And I was actually sitting at a UNWTO Tourism Ethics meeting online last Thursday, and their barometer pointed out that 850 to 1.1 billion arrivals are lost during these months. US dollars 900 to 1.2 trillion lost in export revenue. I'm talking, this is global. And then 100 to 120 million jobs lost globally. Travel restrictions are obviously the biggest impediment to all of this. And I must thank the Ceylon Chamber for giving us an opportunity, because Savitri said this is a troubled industry at the start of the session, and she's absolutely right. We have gone through from disaster to disaster. Last year, we were told not to cover the face. This year, we are told cover the face. So we don't know what will happen to us next year. So are we optimists or idiots in tourism? We will find out after we have our chat. I want to first ask both Sanath and Thilak, because yesterday our president spoke very positively on tourism, and that was, to me, I jumped up after I heard him say, he has informed the authorities, the COVID committee, and the Tourism Development Authority that to start the tourism arrivals as soon as possible. That was sweet music. I'm sure both of you will agree. My question is, are we too late?
Yeah. Ayubowan, no, we are not too late, because we have to make sure that we get ready to open our country. The health pandemic hit us so strongly, but if we make any mistake at this junction, we have to face again another issue. So therefore, we are not too late, but we did a lot of studies. We had monitored what the cases of the other countries who have been reopened, and also some supposed to open by January, but they had postponed. If you think about the regional the countries which has been open. At the same time, if you think the challenges that we have to face, I think we have to take all this into consideration. I think most of our officials has been worked very hard. Now we almost in a conclusion time. I think President gave us also more or less a direction. I think now is the time to open by following the health guideline. We are not late.
Sanath?
Yes, I think how I see His Excellency President's views on tourism, which he articulated very well on yesterday's summit opening address. He had been saying this even before. He has articulated his vision on tourism even in his manifesto, the Saubhagya Dagma. It is very clear. It's also open our minds in the sense that he emphasized that we got to reposition the country. You know, for the last 30 years, as industry players, we all know that we have been selling or marketing Sri Lanka on price. He was very clear in his vision that Sri Lanka needs quality more than quantity. That's his underlying message. So it delivers a very strong message for the industry that we got to change our game plan going forward. We need to look at how to attract high spenders. When I say high spenders, not necessarily the rich clients. You know, it's quality what matters. You know, from $40, we can go up to $50 or $60. From $70, we can go up to $80. That is the concept, what I believe that he was trying to convey. So I think we need to put our thinking caps and we need to work very closely with our regulator, the SLTPB as well, and find a way how to market or reposition Sri Lanka in order to attract a different type of clientele, different profile of clientele, rather than we've been attracting up to now.
Vickum, you would like to comment on that, or you?
Thank you. Thanks, and glad to be here in the first place. Yeah, I think coming back to, what Oliver said in the very beginning, that we are underperforming. I remember I wrote an article that was published on Sunday Times, and the headline was, "So Sri Lanka, so underperforming." And I think finally all of us are now agreeing that we need to reposition ourselves. But so it's about not just the value. I think we were trying to explain, okay, what is value versus what is high end versus what is low end. But it's not about high end or low end, but it's about value. Because at the end of the day, from an investor's point of view, like all three of us are in the hotel business, we have invested our money. At the end of the day, we need to make money as hoteliers as well. So it's about having a ratio where at any given price point, whether it's $50, how much you spend on delivering a $50 service versus how much you spend on delivering a $500 service. And that, as long as that ratio is higher, then as a whole, the economy is going to make money, we are going to make money, and we are going to grow. But what has happened is, that's what we have lacked. I mean, we have been doing for the last, I've been following this industry since the end of the war. And since then, there has nothing been done in that sense. That idea even that we need to make sure this ratio is maintained and create something that's valuable to both the consumer as well as the investors to the industries is what we need. Because, I mean, as we all know, before COVID came or even before the bombings came, most of the industry was still loss-making. All the projects, new projects that happened from Pasikoda to Kalpitiya to Kuchaveli are not necessarily making money. Most of the hotels in Pasikoda are for sale. That's the reality of the industry. So there's fundamentally something wrong in the industry and how we are going about it. So to me, COVID is an opportunity. But everyone is talking about how we open up and how we go from here. But I think this is a time where we have to take a step back and understand where we have been going wrong, because we have been going wrong for the last 10 years, honestly, to me.
Yes.
And create a new strategy, a new position for the country for the next 20 years. And in this case, It's about leapfrogging. It's not about going from where we are or where we were before COVID or where we were before the bombings. Then we will be forever catching up with the rest of our competition. So we need to leapfrog. And for us to leapfrog, we need to get out of the well that we are in. We are pretty much inside a well and creating our strategies and our statistics and all of that within the well. We haven't really analyzed what the competition is offered. So again, as an example, what we did at the end of the war, or the major thing that the government supported or the SLTDA supported, we called it product development at that point, but it was basically a land sale. We created Kuchaveli, Pasikuda, and Kalpetiya. All of them were failures, but those were modeled from Bentota, Beruala, Nigambo that happened in the 70s. So what, after 30 years, we did something we did in the 70s, and in the 70s, it was a big success. But in 2014, it was a failure. What has changed from 1970s to today? And that's essentially the competition around us. When we created Bentata Beruala, Nigambo, those sun, sea, and sand-based areas, the only other competition we had in this region was Thailand. And we pretty much, I think, had similar numbers between Thailand and Sri Lanka. But since then, Maldives has come, Bali has come in, Lanka is, Malaysia is there. All these places are there, and we are competing for a similar product with a similar audience. And we haven't done anything to differentiate ourselves in that scenario. And unfortunately, I mean, you know, Hiran, we were talking about this even now. We have this idea that Sri Lanka is a beach destination. There was a comment, even a press article saying German tourists come here just to go to the beach. That's just nonsense. Actually, to me, the beach is the most uncompetitive asset within the tourism asset class we have, because beach, we can never necessarily compete with Maldives. At any given price point, Maldives will have a better beach. We can't even compete with Thailand's or Langkavis on the beach, and it's a very common asset in this region. But what we have inside the country, from the wildlife to the heritage, the mountains, all of that is pretty much uncomparable. But at this point, I think about 70% of our rooms are still situated on the beach and not on these other assets. And as we know, most of these assets like Yala, the hills, the Sigiriya Dambul areas are doing much better than the beach properties. So we need to analyze all of that and try to leapfrog, create a strategy, as everyone was now saying, to go from here.
Well, yes, thank you, Sanath, for bringing that, you know, what HE said yesterday about high-end tourism, and Vickum articulated his point of view. I think we, as the two main associations, the Hotels Association and the Inbound to Operators, has a role to play in it as well. I think, Vickum, you were very forthright in what you are saying about your view and so on. But I think the two main associations, I think the travel agents will also have to play a leading role in getting to this. So do you think that the travel agencies and the hotel association can work together on lifting the experience and getting the higher end, high value tourism into our country?
Yeah, yes, definitely. We are working together. At the same time, now we have to think, what is this high end, high value? So we be in a country, year round, we have a warm water. And one of the side, during the season, we have a calm sea. Then we have a misty mountain. We do have a good wildlife, and also a lot of terrain for hiking. And we have to add those to your itinerary if you want to make money. But if we say high end only based on the hotel price, or the price that what float in the market, I think that is not the future. Future is a value addition. If someone can train to be a fishing guide, that is again another hard work. You can't just be a fisherman to say, I'm a fisherman and I take the foreigners out for fishing. So you can train. We have to train ourselves. We have to also train our community to make extra money on the value addition. So for value addition, Since we have a year-round warm water, again, good wind condition. If you think about sailing, sailing is one of the high-end business in tourism. So we don't see that much of sailing around the country. We can see little sailing with the small boats, but not yachts or not big boats. But there is a market. At the same time, see how many hikers are coming into Sri Lanka. Now, when we take before the 19, we got a lot of groups coming into the country with multi-activity tour. It's not only the highlight, but in between the destinations, let's say from mountain to the beach, they do a lot of activities. They do hike, they do bike, they do canoeing, they do kayaking. All that has been included in our itinerary. I think adventure sports is something which can be very important to look at, again, high-end or the different level of tourism. I also strongly believe if we add value add now, when we talk about Pasikuda is one of the beautiful places for divers, and you have a lot of shipwrecks. But we have few hotels. We do diving programs. We have clients coming only for that, but we need nationally think about it. We have to develop those areas because underwater, you don't see at once. So you have to have a professional. So you have to get a professional input, then develop the place. Take Arugambe. Arugambe, nothing else than the wave. So we have a few different waves in and around Arugambe. So Ulla Point is one of the famous point in the world for all the surfers. They are not coming to Arugambe just because of Arugambe. They are coming to Arugambe just because of the wave. So wave or the product or the natural resources are available in Arugambe. So if we can develop those areas, if we can get value to those natural resources, I'm sure we can look at totally different picture to build our tourism with more value additions.
I want to bring Oliver in. Oliver, Vickum said that 70% of the hotels are on the beach, and that beach is not the proposition, or that people are no longer in need of the search of the beach, and that we cannot compete with other destinations. And I know you know this country very well, having traveled all over. What is your input on that?
Hiran, it's 100% right. Beach is a product. Beach is Coca-Cola. Beach is a Toyota Corolla. Beach is going to HMN and buying a shirt. It's not an experience. And so your previous speaker was highlighting, this idea of the value add. Value add to me is the experience development. Hiran, when I go to your hotel, I don't want to go to your hotel and just sit on the beach. I want to go to your hotel and I want to talk to your chef. And I want your chef to tell my wife and my mother and myself how to make hoppers and where that recipe came from. It came from his grandmother, and where we get the ingredients from, so that I can rent a car or take a local tour guide and I can go into the areas and find the local ingredients. This is the essence of what Sri Lanka has. If Sri Lanka goes down the path of just trying to create products, it will always be stuck in tourism development 101. We need to elevate it up. We need to figure out what is that actual brand position? What are those experiences? And then how do we match that to the type of consumer that we know values what Sri Lanka has on offer? Hiran, my family's genetically from Goa, right? My parents were born in Goa, and I'm Canadian, but I'm Goan, right? Goa is the opposite of how Sri Lanka wants to develop. Goa is products, beaches, and low-cost charter-based travelers. If you're looking at a volume game, great, let's emulate Goa. If we want to go to what makes Sri Lanka tick, and that might be Sigiriya, it might be the beach, it might be your food, but it's really the essence of what it is to be Sri Lankan. And the type of traveler that we know represents 12 to 14% of the global traveler market, this experiential traveler and this authentic seeking traveler, they want Sri Lanka. But when I go to Expedia or I go to Travelocity and I try to buy a Sri Lankan vacation, A, it's almost impossible, or B, what's on offer is low price point, sit on the beach, and really not get any essence of Sri Lanka. So I think we're all aligned on your panel here that we need to go to a higher value traveler. I think your second speaker said it 100% right. COVID is our game. It's our opportunity to actually think of the Sri Lanka that we want, not the Sri Lanka we've inherited. And this is the opportunity. 2021 is our opportunity for 12 months for Kamali and her team to invest and do figure out how we can fix Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority and Sri Lanka Promotion Bureau to actually help, not hinder the private sector. You hoteliers don't need to be spending lots of money going to trade shows. You need to be subsidized to go to the trade shows so you can do what you do well, close deals with high value tour operators. I can go on, Hiran, but let me pass it back to your speakers.
No, go ahead, because this is important, Oliver, because I think what Vickum said and what you're saying, and I hope many youngsters in hospitality and tourism are listening to this forum. If not, at least it'll be recorded, and I'm sure the chamber will share with a lot of people. It is important because this is the opportunity we have to change what we have been doing. And Vickum, as I started by saying, he's a game changer, and he's a young man whom we admire. And you are a game changer, traveling across the world and so on. So yeah, go ahead if you like. Otherwise, I can bring you in later.
Yes, so just very quickly, Hiran, and I won't take time. We're working with a few destinations. One of them, we're working with South Africa. South Africa realized, look, 2020, 2021, it's kind of lost for tourism. We're going to try to get as much domestic tourism as we can get back, get people to spend money in restaurants, get people to maybe spend a weekend in the hotel with the domestic market. That's great. That's going to keep our lights on. But the game change in all of this, which South Africa has realized, is from the supply and the demand. Do we have the right supply? Are we effectively positioning it? Do we have the right staff? Are we paying them the right wage? Do we have the proper training? Do we have the proper quality control measures in place? Then match it in with the demand. Do we have the right brand positioning? Do we have the right price points? Do we have to go after the right channels? This isn't hard. You are all very, very smart business people. I say the two smartest business people in the world are Sri Lankans and Sri Lankans that live in England or Canada. So you know what you're doing right. You just need to put the ingredients together, and this has to be in partnership with the private sector and government. When you're at loggerheads or government's not working for the private sector, that's a recipe for disaster. The destinations that are getting it right have a good, effective DMO or National Tourism Organization, really good, effective travel and tourism industries, and they're able to put the ingredients together. And right now, I think you've done an awesome thing creating the Tourism Alliance. They know what they're doing. Let's empower them with Kamali's new team to try and figure this out in 2021. And you've got resources. MDF, they're smart people and they've got money. So let's make it happen. This is our year to make it happen, Hiran.
Thank you, Oliver. Actually, this is the first time that I think the government is saying, because the president mentioned it yesterday, and the tourist board, the Kimali has been saying this for some time now, that we need to get high end. So I'm sure finally we will be the beneficiaries. If we all work on this, the country will benefit. The operators, travel agencies, the hoteliers, everyone is going to benefit. People are going to benefit on this. So yeah, I think Sanath and Thilak, we have our two associations work with and the other associations as well as the tourism board. We have a lot to work together to bring this on. Now, I'm going to ask the ambassador a question because, one of the things that came out was every country, ambassador, has its own COVID protocols. And now we are actually again, the industry and the tourist board is going to meet our COVID committee to, establish our own protocols. Is there a way, at least for South Asia, Southeast Asia, to come together? Because this is one pandemic, one disease. Right? One virus, but each country has different protocols. Can we come together and, have a customer focused, little bit more friendlier protocol so that we make it easier for people to travel? Is there any possibility from your diplomatic viewpoint?
Thank you very much, Hiran. This is excellent questions, and all the governments is pondering about these questions and how do we give travelers the confidence back to come back to travel. And recently, as I'm sure you know, that Singapore and Hong Kong was trying very hard to create this travel bubble. But very unfortunately, it didn't take off because all of a sudden, Hong Kong has a spike of the COVID-19. And all this hyped about these travel bubbles and things like that, that has all of a sudden it's died down. And Malaysia, actually, we have been talking to Singapore as well for limited opening of the borders, because Malaysia and Singapore is such a two countries. We have so much linkages in terms of people to people, in terms of trades and goods. So we had achieved a partial kind of open up, but still this is not good enough. It is not good enough to go back to normal, because both countries are still thinking about how best to have this safeguard for the two countries, so that we can encourage our people to travel again. I think Oliver has a very good point just now. He pointed out in his presentation, saying that the people now are using his right brain to think about safety, to think about how to travel safely. And this is exactly what happened to most of the country in Asia. I've myself also been trying to see that is it possible for eventually Sri Lanka and Malaysia to have a travel bubble, that we can open up our borders, maybe initially a little bit limited, but just to build up some trust and also confidence, so that travel would be able to come back as soon as possible. Just another point is that before the COVID pandemic, Malaysia and Sri Lanka actually have 5 flights a day between the two countries. But I must say that I didn't see many traffic on tourists from either side. Most of the people are actually on transit from Australia, New Zealand to KL and then Sri Lanka. So I actually also would like to look into Sri Lanka looking more interestingly, or looking more importantly, towards Southeast Asia, for Southeast Asia as a market, because I think we have for the past 20 years, there's a huge surge in the middle class, and the people are ready to travel. And then I think Sri Lanka has not got the exposure in Southeast Asia, as much as the other regions, so that the market is still very underdeveloped for Southeast Asian travelers to come to Sri Lanka. I hope this pandemic or the rethink of this Sri Lankan tourism industry, that you will also put Southeast Asia as part of the plan, and we are looking very much forward to have more Southeast Asian tourists coming to Sri Lanka, and vice versa, Sri Lankan too visiting Southeast Asia. Thank you.
I think that's a very good point, Ambassador, that yes, we have kind of neglected Southeast Asia, the potential from there. There's a lot of money there, a lot of people who want to travel. So yeah, so that's one point that we must take forward when we come to positioning and marketing. Do you have your hand up again, Oliver, or is that just?
So Hiran, I was going to say, as much as we do want to have any sort of like global protocols with health and safety, the reality is that health and safety policies are nationally regulated, in some cases provincially or state regulated. If we can't get our act together at the global level to figure out, common electrical outlets, it's going to be very hard for governments to figure out common health and safety policies. So I think Sri Lanka has an opportunity to get its health and safety policies right, and then effectively communicate them out to the travel trade and the travel industry and then consumers. My wife and I this summer, we're living in Berlin. We tried to go to France and Belgium for a drive trip. I couldn't figure out if I could rent a car and cross the German border into France. And I looked everywhere to try and find information. If I'm a receptive consumer, it has to be easy for me to figure out, can I get to Sri Lanka? What's the policies? Is my health insurance valid? What are the quarantine policies? And can I get back home? And if you can get all of that right, then I think the world is your option. What the ambassador is saying is, I love the idea of travel bubbles, but travel bubbles are only as good as the weakest link. And the Hong Kong, Singapore announcement has proven that I don't think this is our future. I think our future, what the ambassador is saying, is that Sri Lanka needs to look at its immediate neighborhood for markets. We will probably have a more regionally focused tourism in 2022, 2023. As the European markets are very, very slow to deal with COVID and COVID exposure. So Sri Lanka's new markets might be in the Singapores, Malaysias, Indonesias, and Thailands of the world, at least for the shorter and medium term.
Yes, can I just come in? I think I agree with Oliver that regional tourism and regional traveling will be the immediate improvement for the after the COVID-19 pandemic, because there is a lot of people more confident in traveling in the short term, rather than you ended up in places like so far away that if anything happened, that you'll be stuck. During this lockdown in early this year, we have find so many. I'm just talking about Malaysian tourists were stuck all over the region and all over the world, and this has actually very bad for tourism, because these are never happened before, and throughout the world our missions are trying to help all those stranded Malaysians to get back to the country, and some of them had a not so very nice experience, and but most of them, thank God, got back to Malaysia safely. But this experience is not only happening to Malaysia, but throughout the world, and I think to come back from that, regional travel will be, I think, a good start, because the distance is not there, and if anything happen also, I think most of people are quite right assured that they might be able to go back, and it could be cheaper too, instead of stuck in the US or stuck in Europe or something like that. Then it will be very, very costly and very difficult to come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Well, Vickum, you wanted to come in. There are lots of questions that are coming from the audience. There's a question for you, specifically for you, Vickum. What kind of a strategy can we adopt to move from a price-sensitive strategy to a high-yielding tourist?
Thank you very much. I think it goes back to the point I wanted to address from the previous conversation as well about Southeast Asia as a market. It essentially stems from lack of evidence-based strategy. Like, the evidence is, if you look at Thailand, and if you analyze who are the people who's going to Thailand, the top 10 source markets for Thailand, 5 of them are Southeast Asian. It's Singapore, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, and Laos. I mean, Laos, we can say they are just crossing the border. So take Laos away. You still have 4 countries that we have very good historical relations, but we don't have any market in those things. And we are talking like 10 million people right there. I'm excluding China, which is itself another Asian country that's giving 10 million tourists to Thailand. But just between Japan, Korea, Malaysia, and Singapore, we are talking about a 10 million market. And I know, because there was and we don't have anything, and our attitude is also lacking there. And I know there was a new ambassador who came to Singapore, and before taking her posting, I think she spoke to the SLTD or whoever within the industry, and she wanted to kind of go there before going there, create a strategy and go talk about it. But the feedback she got is, we are not interested in Singapore, which is just baffling, absolutely baffling, which means we don't know what we are, where we want to go. So that's what we need to correct ourselves. So from a strategy point of view, coming back to the specific question, moving from a generic tourism to high yield tourism is about understanding us, what we have, understanding what the market needs, understanding what the competition is providing for those needs, and how do they do that, and how do they communicate that to those markets. And at each price point, again, this is not high end or low end. This is about high yielding. And we can work that at each price point from $100 to $1,000. We need to understand, okay, who are going to Thailand, from where are they coming, what are the products they are consuming, and do we have a competing product or a better product or a base product that can compete with them? So, I mean, if you take, again, a relevant example, a lot of people go to Thailand for sex tourism. Now, that's something we can't do, and we don't want to do. But everything else what Thailand offers, we can do. And we may have a better product in most cases other than the beach. A beach, we are still comparable with Thailand to me. So then we need to understand why people go to Thailand, or specifically, let's say, Chiang Rai for cultural tourism. And where are they coming from? How are they communicating that product to those relevant markets? And we need to then it's easy for us to figure out, okay, how can we do that better? And we have a better product. If you take Sigiriya, Dambulla, Polonar, Vanuatu, Kandy, our cultural or heritage tourism is much, much bigger than Sukhothai and Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai. So we need to work on that. And it's just simply evidence-based, unbiased strategy making rather than visual thinking, which we think is the right thing.
Thanks, Vickum. There are a couple of questions for Oliver. I'll read out one, Oliver. Some hotels and resorts concentrate more on experiential products. How can this be mirrored to get brand Sri Lanka in the same line? Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, so it's funny, Hiran, because it should actually be the opposite, right? The brand tenants should be dictating the kind of products and experiences that Sri Lanka is developing and offering. So again, this becomes the disjoint between what the private sector is doing and, largely speaking, they're probably driving the agenda versus traditionally in the past, what hasn't been happening at the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority and Sri Lanka Tourism Promotions Bureau. I don't want to harp on that, but because I'm a big fan of Kamali and I think she has a change management mandate. I think you have the smart people. You know what you're doing from the private sector's perspective. And again, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of the Tourism Alliance. I think there needs to be an opportunity for the private sector to influence what Kamali is going to be doing at the strategy level, because the government doesn't drive tourism, the private sector does, and they deliver the tourism experience, but they provide the enabling factors. And part of that is, the proper brand positioning and developing out the awareness of Sri Lanka, ensuring that we're targeting the right channels and the right consumers, doing the research, figuring out the quality control measures. This empowers and this supports the private sector to then deliver on your goods. So to answer that question directly, I think we need to change the conversation. We need to ensure that the government is effectively positioning and really implementing that Sri Lanka brand to make sure that it is in fact right and it's the truth. And then it allows the private sector to figure out their experiences to align with the brand.
Thanks. There are a few more questions. I think these are questions for any one of you to take on. One is, this is a good one. How do you intend changing the mindset and involvement of the stakeholders? Let's not make the COVID an excuse for another failure when the situation improves. Sanath, I'm going to retire.
I seem to be getting all the change of mindset is required, but actually, we have to look at the objective first. What is our objective of Sri Lankan tourism? If we can clearly articulate our objectives, I think most of these questions will fall into place. A lot of points have been discussed about Thailand, and His Excellency also mentioned about Malaysia. We have to learn from all these neighboring destinations, what they have done and what they keep doing. But our case, I believe, is somewhat little different because Thailand, Malaysia, they are into mass tourism. Thailand gets about 37 million tourists. Malaysia gets nearly about another 30 million tourists per annum. This I'm talking about pre-COVID, of course. And Sri Lanka got highest, we got 2.3. And I believe our objective is to get 4 or 5 million tourists. We can't go anything above that. So if that is the goal, then we have to work out a strategy and train our mindset to fit into this objective, how to achieve this objective. For me, I don't think it is an impossible target to achieve. It is quite easy because, as we discussed, we are located in a very fast developing part of the world, where there's a very strong middle class, growing middle class. So to attract 4 or 5 million tourists, for me, it's not a difficult task. Then we talked about beach tourism. Sri Lanka beach is one of the most attractive products we have. People come and stay longer than 4 or 5 days, weeks on the beach. And they go and spend round trip destinations, unfortunately, up to date has become transit points. They spend 1 or 2 nights on the cultural circuit. Of course, we need products, we need development to hold them for a longer period. I know Santani has done a brilliant job. You all have a specialize on wellness, that you keep the clients for longer than 1 or 2 days. So likewise, we have to be innovative in our product delivery and create products where we could cater for the younger generation today and try to attract them. Of course, if you go to the traditional markets like European markets, their dream is to come and lay down the beach under a coconut tree and enjoy the surroundings. Even in the Maldives, although we are talking about it being the ideal beach destination, which I fully agree, there are only 35% of the clients who go to Maldives actively dive. Some of them don't even snorkel. And especially the Chinese, they don't do anything like that. And they are the biggest, number of arrival. By number, they are the highest to Maldives today. So likewise, we need to look at the market, what they require, and tailor-made our product and, as you say, change your mindset, perhaps, but to fit into our objectives and how do you achieve our goals.
Sorry, Hiran, just to that point, I think it's also important that we don't look at markets as homogeneous audiences. A Chinese traveler in Beijing who's a certain age is not the same as a Chinese traveler in Shanghai who is the same age. We need to look at the segment of the traveler on why they travel. And they could be the same person they look the same if they're in England or if they're in Canada or if they're in China. If we look at a segmentation-based approach, this will change the game for Sri Lanka. So this wouldn't us falling into our same trap of we need to look at the Chinese market or we look at the Malaysia market. No, we need to look at the type of cultural and adventure traveler that we know wants that type of Sri Lanka experience. If we do that, that to me is the game changer of what we need to do in this post-COVID environment.
I think that's again, we are going back to this evidence-based. Again, Sanath, I have to differ with you because again, what you were saying is what we have experienced.
I knew that was going to come.
Yeah, sorry, Sanath.
We think Europeans come here just for the beach, but we don't know for sure. We haven't done any study. We don't have any evidence to say, yes, previously, that's what it was. But things have changed. Competition has changed. Our beaches have changed. Right? So we don't know at this point to say this is why they are coming. We need to get that data. We need to have a mechanism to get that data. And again, like this 4 million, where is that coming from? What data do we have for that? And I don't agree Malaysia or Thailand is a mass tourism destination. They have a lot of tourists, but they have products. If you go to Phuket, you're talking like $2,000, $5,000 villas per night, per room even. So it's not just that. They have created products at different price points and they're getting all of that. So we can do the same, but the way we are going at this point, we can't do, and that's one of the key reasons why we can't go with the way we are going is of this round trip. Because everyone is coming, is getting congested in specific spots. But if you take, let's say, for example, Singapore, which is a tiny, like less than Colombo district, and they get about 12 million people. And you don't feel congested in Singapore. So what are we talking about? Over-tourism here? No, we just haven't done it right. So we need to understand, we need to go back to the drawing boards and really understand our products, where they can go, how can we break this round trip? All of this has to be thought of. Then we will know, okay, what is our carrying capacity? we don't know what the carrying capacity at this point. So what matters is carrying capacity. And then within the carrying capacity, we need to create different products so that they are all not getting congested in one point or one product.
Thilak, you like to take something on from there on the changing of mindset?
Yes, I think we have to look at good mix and match accommodation unit. I don't believe only on high end. Yes, agree, we have to have a hotel for $10,000, agree. That's another segment. But we have hotels which cater since 1960s in this country. There are so many colonial hotels. So there are different products. But these products also can come up with their innovative ideas or a lot of different product values. And also I don't agree that we are selling cheap. Yes, that is the highlight you see in some of the brochure product or some of the online platform. But at the same time, if you look at different product value, and today Sri Lanka diving, or if somebody want to do a good dive or a wreck dive, that can cost easily $100. But that is not going to the general market. Those are with the specialized operators. There are so many operators sell high-end or specialized product. But we believe as a tour operators association or the agency bring a lot of clients into the country, we are always there to market many different products. We can't sell only beach property because most of this beach property has been contracted with key operators or big operators. And here as a tour operators, we have to also look at the value addition. At the same time, transport. We thinking Sri Lankan transport is cheap. No. If you want to get the right vehicle and specialized chauffeur, then you have to pay a bit more. And there are guides in the country, they don't work for $15, $20. Some of them, they're charging $100 a day, but they're specialized. Of course, we commonly talk about the general product, what you see in the market or what you hear generally. But I believe after 2010 till 2020, there was tremendous increase of the specialized product, but it is not seen, it is not visible that much. We operate that within our circles. The otherwise, there are operators, small operators. Today, they are very successful. As Hiran started, myself, I start with water-based activities. And today, we are one of the large inbound operator. What are we doing? We had always introduced a different product value, but we don't sell that cheap. If somebody come to one of our hotel and say, yeah, what is this? This is maybe a small property in a mountain, but it doesn't look a big property, but that is a kind of property what hikers are looking. Here in our country, we have a place-to-place hiking. We go from one hotel to other hotel. There are products that you go for 6-7 days by walk. But these products are available, but we can't do it in mass way. Why we are not doing it mass way? Then it won't match in mass tourism. The clientele is different. Clientele is paying to have their really experience. So it's not the only accommodation unit or the size of accommodation unit. I think the product value has to be added. That is number one. And also the training and education on different subjects has to be improved in Sri Lanka. If those values come in, I'm sure we can sell it at a different level.
I think you answered one of the questions. One of the questions was, is there enough training and development for this kind of thing? So you answered that question. I'm going to ask one more from this, I don't know, maybe hundreds of questions that are coming. We all want the high spenders, but don't we have overcapacity in accommodation? Maybe I'll ask this from Vickum. Should this not be regulated for demand versus supply?
Again, my point is it's not about high spenders or high end. It's about high value. And it has to be value from $100 to thousands of dollars. So it's not about high end or low end. So then with overcapacity, again, is the question, I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, like why is Pasiguda reeling? It's because it's a bad product. It's not serving the needs of the market. And at that price point, you can go to better beaches or at a similar beach at a cheaper rate in Thailand or in Malaysia or somewhere else. So it's just a wrong product. It's nothing to do with overcapacity. It's about bad planning and bad products being introduced.
You have a bodyguard with you. if the Pasiguda developers are listening.
No, I mean, we need to realize where we are. If you have to move forward, if you have to leapfrog, we can't leapfrog with the wrong understanding. Then we are going somewhere else.
Vickum, I had to disturb you. I have a property at Pasiguda. I'm making money.
No, obviously
I'm making money.
Don't shoot me.
I'm making money just because of the specialty.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's
we have a specialized product.
That's a whole point.
So the others can adapt. Though.
Yeah. No. So it's not about. I mean, we need. It's not about. I think Oliver mentioned that it's not about just building a hotel on the beach and saying, yeah, this is it. It's not. We have to differentiate. So as long as we can differentiate, I don't think we have overcapacity. And then overcapacity also comes from lack of demand. So on that's where the country positioning and country marketing and all of that has to come in together. So we need to manage both supply and demand. And then overcapacity will go. I think we have much more to give in this country than 2 million tourists.
As the discussion is nicely heating up, I'm going to slightly change the topic, but this is very relevant. I think Oliver and everybody else will agree now, and you said it, Oliver, that safety and security is primary. I mean, today is number one. But we are now talking only of safety on COVID, right? But there are other safety issues as well. As I said before, last year we were told to take the face mask off. Now we are told to put a face mask on, right? I'm telling you because we had a terrible incident on Easter Sunday 2019. Now, reconciliation, peace through tourism. This is something that Taleb Rifai, when he was a UNWTO Secretary General, brought in the 4th P in tourism: people, planet, profit, and peace. Shouldn't we in tourism, be the catalyst for peace? Because the Middle East, Africa, Asia, there are lots of issues. Maybe Ambassador, you can come in on this first, and we have 10 more minutes left. Maybe if we can keep our answers short, but that'll give everybody a chance to respond to this question. Peace through tourism. Can tourism be a catalyst for peace?
I believe so, and we can see this in many instances. For example, tragedy happened in one place, but the tourists coming back it's a very reassuring. It happens in Sri Lanka last year within a very short span of time after the unfortunate terrorist attack 2019. It also happened before in Bali, but it took a little bit longer time. I think it was about 1 year after the Bali bombing incidents, tourists came back. And this is reassuring to the country and also to the local community that, we will be able to overcome all this tragedy. And we see this all over and over again. And I believe we are going to see this more. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, can we play a role in preventing these tragedies, by building more harmony and so on? Sanath?
Well, I mean, tourism is all about sharing cultures and building friendship. So I believe in that perspective, we can promote peace between nations and between cultures, between people. But coming back to this Pasiguda, I have to defend Pasiguda because there are lots of my members who are based there.
By the way, Pasiguda is just an example.
Yeah, but I want to tell you that, it's for me, it's one of the beautiful stretch of beach in Sri Lanka. It's totally deserted. You don't get too many, people interfering like in the south coast, southwest coast. The visitors who go there are left alone. I think that is one of the most important features in any beach destination. That's why Maldives is so successful, because you have privacy, and Pasiguda offers that. And the failure of Pasiguda, if you want to name it that way, for me, I think it's infrastructure problem. You know, it takes 5 hours or more to get to Pasiguda from the airport. So, you know, just before the Easter bomb blast, a lot of people were organizing cultural tours straight from the airport. They go to Sigiriya, and from there they go to the beach in Pasiguda. So that was developing quite well. And unfortunately, the Easter bomb blast came, and then came the pandemic, and that whole thing crashed. But I believe Pasiguda has a great future, and I don't think we should, discount that. If we can have connectivity, better connectivity between the airport to the destination by road as well as by air, I think that destination can be revived very quickly because we have great products there.
And also that is a bay within a bay. And you can swim at least 10 months a year. So that's another advantage at Pasiguda.
So that's again one point what I want to add to that. It's not just the connectivity, it's this misconception about our seasonalities. And we have this idea that Pasiguda works only for 3 months of the year, which is not true.
10 months a year.
Yeah, it works 10 months of the year. And I've been to Pasiguda, most of the time I go to Pasiguda is like in January. And in most cases, it's better beaches than what we get in the South Coast. So again, I'm not saying Pasiguda is bad. How we have understood Pasiguda, how we have positioned it, and what we have built in there is not coming together. So we need to work on the connectivity. We need to work on the communications and what it is, what we can do there. And the products itself has to differentiate. As Thilak was saying, just can't say, okay, Pasiguda is a great beach and here's a hotel. We need to create more experiences that differs from maybe what Maldives can do or Thailand can do or Malaysia can do. Then yeah, any place can, in Sri Lanka can work. Coming back to peace, I think that's what we all hope for. I think at this point, travel, I think Sanath said it's about sharing. And more we travel, more we understand about other cultures, other people, their issues. And I think that helps in general to build empathy in everybody. So, and having empathy, I think, is the stepping stone to having peace in this world.
There was a question whether are we having an overcapacity of our accommodation unit. I would say after 2010, all of us were speeding to, get more rooms. That's why homestays started, because we haven't got enough rooms at that time. But by about 2015, of course, we had the rooms, but we had also cater from 500,000 to about 2 million. And year 18, it was little over 2 million. But our room capacity, actually, which has been registered with the Sri Lanka Tourism SLTDA, is about 50,000, less than 50,000. But informal sector is having another 40,000. With all that, still those who have a right product, they manage to still sell. Very difficult to even find a room at those products. That's number one. Number two, there are investors who just invest on the beach. They came, they build a hotel, and then they are complaining about the rates and all that. No, that is just because of, they didn't really study the market segments, or like everyone says, they don't have a right product. So if they start with the right product, I'm sure we can sell. And the number of rooms what we are having, it is not that much, because if we go for 5 million tourist target, I think still we need more unique units, but those can be built at different level. I think this can be built with the different product value, different price value, and some value addition to it. So that's what I think of the overcapacity over the.
Yeah. Thanks, Thilak.
Yeah.
Oliver, you have anything to say?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Hiran, I always have something to say. Two minor points, Hiran. I do not believe in overcapacity. I believe in undermanagement, and there are so many destinations, even at the subnational level, where they just do a really poor job of managing the effective balance between supply and demand and consumer interest and travel trade engagement, and balancing it from a seasonal perspective. So if we're seeing overcapacity in certain areas of Sri Lanka, then my big question is, what can we do from either a legislative perspective or a proper strategy perspective to ensure that those properties can be successful as other properties? So that's the first point. The second point is it's very theoretical to say that tourism can be leading to an expansion of peace and the linkage to peace. I think first and foremost, we're in the business of economic development with tourism. And in the business of good economic development, if Sri Lanka does tourism right, then a natural outcome will be peace and harmony in the society, because it means that we're paying people a living wage, that we're employing more youth, that we're giving more opportunities to women and minority groups, and that this is putting good foreign exchange into the Sri Lankan economy. So if we do tourism right, I think a natural extension will be peace, but let's not that be the be all and end all. The be all and end all is good, solid economic development and empowerment of Sri Lanka's economy.
Good. Ambassador, last words from you. I think you're muted, Ambassador.
I'm very hopeful that we will be able to come back from COVID-19 pandemic, and it will come back strongly. I believe regional tourism will be the stay. But maybe in a little bit longer term, that maybe tourism will extend to the rest of the world. But we starting with regional. I believe that we will be seeing something very, very soon, within maybe 6 months to 9 months after the vaccines come into effect.
Thank you again. I think we have less than a minute to go. We can't take any more questions. Savitri is about to kick me out from here along with the panel. So this was, I enjoyed listening to all of you. And I think especially the younger ones, Vickum and Oliver, you bring in a different thinking pattern, different mindset. So it's up to us the seniors to kind of, either retire and get out of this place and let the younger guys take it on and do it, or, change our mindset and move forward, because I think you did make a lot of sense, Vickum. I think I'm beginning to appreciate the way you speak. You are, in cricket parlance, you say you hit straight down the line. You don't beat around the bush. You just say it as it is. I think it's a wonderful trait, and keep going, and you will do well. And thank you, Oliver. I hope you'll keep yourself warm over there. Ambassador, you've been wonderful. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for being with us. And the old faithfuls, Thilak and Sanath, thank you again for being with us. And to the Chamber, thanks, Chamber, for giving tourism another opportunity to bat. When everybody else has given up, the Ceylon Chamber has not given up on tourism, and we are grateful for that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hiran, for moderating that session. And one takeaway that I actually took from Oliver is that you're in the business of solid economic development, and that's what tourism should be about. And with that solid economic development comes empowerment of the nation. That's the bottom line. So whatever you do, you need to look at things differently. Travel and hospitality will never be the same again, but there you go, lots and lots to think about and hopefully to take on board.